Welcome in, everyone. This is the Full-Time Roundup podcast. It is your host, Daniel Brackett, joined alongside me, Harrison Clark. Harrison, it is a Wednesday. We are recording after work, a little happy hour. Um, Busy, long weekend for both of us, I imagine, with Labor Day. Hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend. Monday, we had off. I ended up taking Friday off as well. So a 4-day weekend, never a bad thing. I was at the beach. You were at the lake. Did you have a good time?
Sure did. A lot of water sports and a lot of bruises. So, a couple days later, we're still looking to recover from that. We're getting older, Dan. I don't know if you know this, but the body's starting to wrinkle a little bit and it might not be able to take as much as it used to. But here we are. We're all in one piece still. I'm excited to talk about this past weekend in the footy world.
Yeah, my knee is pretty down bad right now. It'd be one thing if I knew why, but I don't have a reason why it hurts so bad.
Sounds
It's
like a
not
problem.
it's not like an ACL. It's like right where that kneecap is. So I think I probably wore some bad shoes for too long or something of that nature. And it randomly happened. I was just running and all of a sudden I just have a sharp pain. So
I'll be
um,
sure. I'll be sure this weekend to give it a couple taps then.
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. And I'll be seeing you at the beach this weekend. So that should be a great time. Our schools are playing football. So that should be some some fun banter there, especially if, Charlotte has it close. I'm not feeling too good about it, but I don't feel good for either side at that point. But let's go ahead and get into the football. We'll talk football. We'll kind of round up the transfer window. We might throw in a fun segment or two that we're thinking about here. So we're kind of gonna beep bop everywhere on this podcast and kind of see, what shit sticks. So let us know. Before we do that, give us a follow on X at Full Time Roundup. Follow Harrison at H Clark underscore 02. Follow me at Liverpool CLTFC for content. Now, when it comes to your streaming platform, go ahead and click that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever else. Turn on automatic downloads. Give us a 5-star rating. Just helps us spread the brand. So I'm wearing my Liverpool jersey. That is the game that I want to talk about first. The slot era is now 3-0. And, I feel like I've been pretty tepid on how I feel about Liverpool right now under slot. But after this game, it made me really happy. And I mean, we watched this Liverpool side absolutely dominate Ten Hag's Man United side at Old Trafford. And in retrospect, I was reading Sir Alex Ferguson's autobiography at the beach before I watched this game. So kind of reading how much of a fortress Old Trafford was and then watching Liverpool win 3-0 might have changed my perspective a little bit. But either way, these were the type of games that Liverpool last year struggled against Ten Hag for some reason, and there was really no struggle. Casemiro, Kobe Minu just completely played off the pitch in terms of Liverpool's midfield domination. And, it was 3-0, but it could have been very easily 5-0. Ten Hag is still the coach of this Manchester United squad, which is a little bit surprising. But Harrison, I wanted to get a neutral view on that Liverpool Man United rivalry game.
Yeah, United might be cooked. I'm like, it's sad to see someone like Casemiro now at this point of his career, and I know he got a lot of shit from United fans, which obviously in the world of mental health, I hope he's all right. But he had a real stinker, especially the first half. He was coughing up the ball for no apparent reason many times, and like a lot of it was he had plenty of time. He could have turned and taken touches, and he was playing one-touch balls just straight to Liverpool players, which was absolutely shocking. Um, could have been 4 if Trent's goal wasn't offsides, which that was very close as well.
That celebration, the Jared Regen celebration with
Yeah, I
the
saw that.
smooch of the camera.
I saw an edit on TikTok. One of the cleanest transitions I've ever seen in my life.
Was it one of them kissing to the other one right after?
No, no, not quite that. But it was like kissing the camera, and the camera pans up to the sky because he pushes it away, and the sky comes back down to Gerard with the teammates. I was like, holy shit, that was insane.
Free fire.
But yeah, Mo Salah continues to be a problem early this year, just scoring every single game so far. But I think the story has to be just Man U getting played completely off the pitch on their home ground. Their midfield getting dominated, absolutely dominated by Liverpool's. And like you look at Liverpool's midfield, Dom, McAllister, and Gravenberch. Like on paper, it's hard for me not to think that they don't need another midfielder there, but the way that they've started the season and the way that they just completely killed Manchester United in the midfield makes me think that Slot's got something really working in there. So the main story for me is Man United getting just bullied in every fashion. And Ten Hag, I mean, I don't see a world now where he's not gone soon. And also Liverpool, I know you said that they've been good, not amazing, kind of the last 2 weeks, but now after this game, they've been excellent, and now have all 9 points, the same as Manchester City. So I'm excited for the rest of the year to see if they're able to build on these kind of performances, see if they're able to put some consistent play for a full season, and really make it a race, but maybe even a three-team race.
Yeah, 0 goals conceded as well through 3 games. And, I was starting to kind of – I've been pretty quiet about Liverpool the last, month or so, generally since Jurgen Klopp left, really, since last season. But I kind of let it fly a little bit, not even talking trash, just saying that, man, this could be something special in the making here of just a good symbiotic relationship between a coach and a team. Liverpool did go shopping last year in the likes of, Dominic Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Endo, just to name a few. Gakpo was somewhat new, bringing in the academy kid at right back that I'm blanking on his name right now.
Bradley.
So forgive me, Bradley. Kwanzaa, those types of players.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these players did not fit the bill under Jurgen Klopp, and Slot has turned them into absolute machines. I mean, I've talked to a lot of doubters of Dominic Szoboszlai. I've talked to a lot of doubters of Gravenberch. And, I mean, Gravenberch, for me, at CDM has just been phenomenal. He's showing everything that I saw when I watched him at Ajax. I was a huge fan. I didn't really understand the Bayern move, and it seems like he's finally found his footing under that, total football. And then Dominic Szoboszlai, he really fits the bill as a Leipzig hyper press team, and he's just added a little bit to his game after really bad Euros and really bad campaign last year. So, not only not asking for any signings other than a cheap Chiesa and a goalkeeper that I doubt Slot even was really interested in for the time being, and then kind of just transforming your squad using what you have and improving it. I'm not saying that Liverpool had a bad squad. They have a great squad. But, usually a manager comes in and he wants his guys, and he hasn't asked for a single person, to be honest. And so, I'm sure we'll see cracks at some point of Liverpool and Slot era. But for right now, I'm just going to enjoy it. And I love being level with Manchester City. And let's get to that. Manchester City. Haaland another hat trick, another day. I mean, this team looks like it's just going to do the same exact thing that it does every single year and compete. Doesn't matter who you're playing. Mateus Nunes is starting to get game time. Rico Lewis has been starting every game. I mean, it's the same old story for them, but Holland is looking extra lethal this year. He barely even touches the ball, but just finds a way just to use up every single touch he has efficiently. And that's 6 goals in 2 games for him. And he already has, I think, a little bit 7 goals in 3 games to start out this year, which is just phenomenal. Him and Mo are on like the same track in terms of goals and assists, which is a testament for how good Mohamed Salah is as well. But I mean, this team looks like they're going to handle business yet again, and it's going to be. I said it wasn't going to be a 90-point season. I think was one of my predictions. I might have to walk that back. We'll have to wait and see until Champions League happens and there's a lot more games. But I mean, this City team looks pretty damn good yet again.
We just keep waiting for him to lay down at the beginning of the year. Like maybe just take some games off, settle in, get your feet wet. No, they just come out and just running teams over. I think the worst of the 3 was against Chelsea, and they still shut us out, beat us 2-0. And then Ipswich killed them after conceding an early goal. And the story for all 3, including this game with West Ham, is that Holland looks more lethal than ever, which is the scariest thing in the world. Literally the scariest thing. I mean, every time that guy touches the ball around the box, I think he's scoring. It's unbelievable. I literally haven't seen something like this. Like, I feel like the last time I've seen something like this in some sort of same context, but maybe still even better, is like Lewandowski in his prime at Bayern. Like the guy just was an absolute machine, and clearly still is a machine. But Holland right now is so scary, and if you're playing fantasy soccer, he is just killing every single team. But you mentioned that they're throwing in other guys in the mix, and it just doesn't matter. Like Jack Grealish started on Saturday for the first
shocking
time.
Start.
Like I know Foden's been sick or whatever the hell's going on there, but Grealish gets a start. He gets involved in the action. You have Doku. You don't even need to start Savio, even though he's had a great start to the season. It's just it's a pet machine that just continues to go. And frankly, I don't see them slowing down at any point, because this is almost it's what they are. Like they just win games. And I'm pretty like Rodri's still not back. I really
they've been doing this entire thing without Rodri.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like you just invert Rico Lewis into the midfield, and it's seamless. So whoever they put in there, it doesn't matter. City's going to win the game, and it's frightening for the rest of the league that they continue to not lie down and continue to just be a machine.
Have we ever seen a player as dominant as Erling Haaland in the Premier League?
As dominant,
because I was thinking, and I was thinking, Mohamed Salah before Haaland was lighting it up and netted 25 something goals. Kane had a pretty good run where he was just dominating defenders, just wasn't on a good team.
I mean, I'm not trying to glaze, but like
he just makes it look so easy.
I think intimidation factor in front of goal, like Drogba was extremely intimidating in front of goal. Like the guy just, you don't want to go against him, and that's how every single defender feels against Erling Haaland. Is you don't want to be against him because he is so damn strong. Like that's the part I feel like nobody really talks about. Is just you can't get the ball off of him because he's just an absolute unit. So it's hard to necessarily say somebody as dominant, because you could literally say like you could say in the same context that Rodri has been just as dominant as Erling Haaland, I think, because he refused to lose games. He's the far and away the best defensive midfielder in the world right now. But I would say from a goal scoring standpoint, it's something that we have not seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, just to name out a few names: Aguero, Luis Suarez.
Suarez.
Suarez was
Suarez at
him.
Liverpool was
Suarez was him.
yeah.
But Suarez also did it all, and Holland just puts the ball in the back of the net. So just an interesting conversation there. And when we talk about who's going to really push for the title here, there's one team we haven't mentioned, and that's Arsenal. Arsenal tie Brighton early kickoff on Saturday. They do go up one, and then Declan Rice gets sent off. I don't care what you say or who you are. That is a second yellow. That is by definition the rule. So I mean, if you want to argue this, we can. But I mean, if you kick a ball out of play off a reset, that's just what's going to happen. I thought it was really funny that he kicked it and then got absolutely clattered in the shin right after. It's like, not only did you get sent off, but you actually got kicked pretty bad too. Not a bright moment for Rice. And he cost his team here a point after Dunk breaks every single line of Arsenal's defense to that ball to Minta. Was just ridiculous. It really was. It was like a 40-yard on the ground pass cutting through Arsenal's defense. And, I feel like Arsenal are pretty lucky to walk away with a point here after that whole second half being down a man. I don't see this as a huge setback for the Gunners just because I think Brighton are a phenomenal team, and City, or at least definitely Liverpool, will slip up somewhere. But in starting the season off right, I'm sure Arteta is going to have nightmares over a national break over that result.
Yeah, I mean, good on them to get a point, I guess. I don't really like the red card. It's a yellow. It's for sure a yellow. I just the refs,
that's an awareness.
But the refs don't call it every single time, which it just bugs the shit out of me. It happens multiple times a game, and sometimes they'll call it and sometimes they won't. Like in the first half, João Pedro booted the ball 60 yards down the field after the whistle, and he didn't get a thing. And so it's kind of I don't know. You gotta set the standard to start the game. Once it happens once, do not let it happen again, or you will get a card. So I would just like to see more consistency, which is we're asking for a lot with Premier League refs with that. So I think it adds to the interesting storyline to the beginning of the year that Brighton aren't going to back down from anyone. Now 2 wins and a draw. You get a draw at the Emirates, regardless if there's a red card or not. You take that.
You beat United.
Yeah, you beat United. We don't need. Maybe we'll talk about the Everton game, but it's exciting to see Brighton having this kind of start. They're looking like a top half team this season. So I don't think this will set Arsenal back though. They have enough depth to fill Rice's void for a little bit, especially with the break here. They'll be good to go when they come back.
No, absolutely. Really, the only other game I want to talk about is the one you mentioned with Everton. I actually, when I was at the beach, I went to the 86th minute. It was still 2-0 Everton, and I paused it because it was on replay. And I looked at my brother and my dad, and I say, "Can you guys guess the final score of this match?" And they were like, what, 2-2? And I was like, all right, let's go watch this next 10 minutes. And then we just watched 3 Bournemouth goals in a row. Just all-time bad from Everton. And the good news is they looked a lot better in terms of, how they played. I thought starting in Dye was he was a bright spot. But
it doesn't matter, dude.
It doesn't matter because that last goal that they scored, I mean, it was, for me, the equivalent of Brighton picking it up with a Dingra and crossing it to the back post, and there's 3 Brighton players open on the back post. I mean, Michael Keane just watches, I think it was Sinistera, just watches him get it wide open. This is supposed to be the best league in the world. And it's like schoolboy shit that you see sometimes. That's like, as a center back who's been a veteran for like a decade in the Premier League, how do you, at the end of the game, just like look over your shoulder and just let three guys loose in the box? Like, I just will never understand that. It's so bad.
I think the funniest thing was that they went up 2-0, and I texted you, dude. We talked about the cycle on the show of the cycle of Everton. Like, it comes in waves. Some they'll look horrible, and then they'll get a game, and they'll be back. And I texted you. I said Everton's back.
And I said the cycle emoji. I sent 3 cycle emojis. I said, trust me. And then it was like,
not another word was said the rest of the game. And the next text I sent to you was just laughing emojis because I could not believe what just happened. So, like, regardless of if you play well, that kind of loss, I still don't know how you take positives.
At home?
At home. I don't know how you take positives from that game.
Yeah. And so getting a win against Bournemouth too is like kind of a big win in my opinion too. Like that's like a tough mid-table side in terms of like those are the sides that you want to get a point at least at home, and you depend on that for your survival. And just to throw away 2-0 lead after the 86th minute, I mean, unacceptable coaching, unacceptable from the players, and not only can they not rebound the next week, but they have to mull on this for like 2 weeks, which could be really good or really bad. With a manager like Deitch having 2 weeks of just training with Deitch, I mean, I couldn't imagine how hell the next couple of weeks are going to be for them. But yeah, very dire times. Luckily, Southampton keep losing. Leicester keep losing. But Leicester actually looked not bad. And then Ipswich get a point. So, I mean, it's not like the three bad teams capitalize on this, but I mean they're right in there with those other three, and I mean it's just bad at the bottom 4 of the Premier League table right now. Everyone else I feel like is going to be fairly safe at this point.
I mean, it's just them and Southampton without a point so far. So
yeah, no doubt. Anything else that you saw in the Premier League that kind of raised your eye? I guess Chelsea drew against Palace. Palace needed a point there pretty bad.
Game should have been finished. Nicholas Jackson, it's a common story. He had plenty of chances in the second half.
He did.
Wasn't able to finish. Had the one where it was right around the 90th minute, and he got released behind the back line and was kind of fighting off a defender for a little bit and wasn't able to put it by Dean Henderson. But other than that, Newcastle, good win at home against Spurs.
Oh, that's a good result I forgot about. Yeah. I mean, Newcastle went on the break. I think Spurs again for the second time this year threw away points. They outplayed their opponent, were the better team, just couldn't put the ball in the back of net. I think they shot Newcastle 20-9. Definitely missing Solanke, but Solanke wasn't really helping before. My quick question for you on Tottenham is, Ange seems like he's going to live or die by his philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And is that sustainable in this world of football?
I think it depends on exactly what their end goal is. Like, is it It's got to be Champions League, I assume, is what they're fighting for. I think I could see a world where they make top 4 playing with that, but they have to finish their chances better than they did and better than they have to start the year, and just in general, like they should have. We could say 7 points. Like I could definitely see that game ending in a draw, but they arguably could have won it. You can't lose the game to Leicester, tie the game to Leicester. So, I don't know. The second goal, just horrible defending. Like Joe Lenton with the most simple turn in the midfield and just a through ball right through the center backs, and off they go. Let's see if this kickstarts Alexander Isak this year, because he's been quiet, very quiet to start the year. Get the tap in, so I guess nothing special, but it's a goal, and strikers need goals and need to find that sort of confidence. So, and in general, let's see if this kicks Newcastle into gear, because they've been a little sluggish to start the year, and this is a huge result for them at home against a team who will be right there with them at the end of the year.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I would say we've seen, I mean, some of the biggest managers in football of all time, highest regarded managers. I think of Johan Cruyff. I think of Pep Guardiola. I think of Marcelo Bielsa, just to name a few. They will live and die by their philosophy, and were really just influential in how football is played at this time of in the 2024. I just don't think clubs or fans, especially with social media, have patience for that. I think the philosophy for most teams now is 3 points over a philosophy. And so Spurs really want to challenge, and they want to get to where their goals are, especially with spending money in the offseason. I just don't see Ange having, if this keeps happening, I just don't see him being able to survive in terms of just football fans these days and how clubs are ran. Pep Guardiola was the last one I can think of who lived or died by his style, and he was just graced with Lionel Messi and one of the best Barca teams of all time, and they were able to kind of play out his strategy. So I mean, that's my opinion there. I also don't think he's an influential manager in terms of those three that I mentioned, but it's still like as a football purist, I rock with Ange. But if I'm a Tottenham fan who wants to get Champions League and my team is 1-1 to start out and it's not looking good, I could see fans turn against him at some point if these results carry on, say through December.
I mean, it's worked at every other level, really. Like, he's been excellent in other leagues. It just kind of it remains to be seen if it's sustainable in the Premier League. Like, I think right now, like if you look at that match and you look at Eddie Howe versus Ange, like, who's the better manager in the Premier League right now? Like, I don't think it's not crazy to say that Eddie Howe is currently a better manager in the Premier League than Ange. Like, the fact that Eddie Howe has taken Newcastle from where they were to where they are now, I think says something. Not, of course, they've had like new
Cash
owners
injection.
and everything. Yeah. But at the same time, to be able to, get the chemistry right with all of those guys to get them to where they were last year or the year before that, really, to get to the Champions League, I think it says something about Eddie Howe. And I think that, it remains to be seen a little bit with Ange if he's able to sustain his style with the Premier League and, have notable success. Notable meaning, can he actually bring a trophy to Spurs? Because God knows that's been forever, and it's something they're still waiting on. So, yeah, I don't know. I think his style is fun, and it's entertaining and great to watch as a neutral. But it's just a matter if they're able to get those 3 points, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. Going to the Bundesliga, the best game that I ended up watching this on a replay. Leverkusen, Leipzig. Leverkusen are dealt their first loss in a very, very, very long time, especially at home. Another team that threw away a 2-0 lead with Leverkusen. They dominated the game, kind of threw it away. Openda gets a brace for Leipzig. And, if you're bored during international break and you just want to watch a good game, I definitely recommend watching this on replay. It's what I did on Monday night when I got home. I was like, I want to watch a sport. And, I looked at the matches that I didn't get to catch, and this was the one I chose. And, the first half had 3 goals. Second half had 2 goals. So you get 5 goals and some really pretty play. Leverkusen, I'm sure Xabi Alonso will not be happy with throwing this game away. They definitely should have won. I mean, we had a manager sent off in the 20th minute with Marco Rose, which was interesting. And, I'm not, I think Leverkusen are going to bounce back from this after international break, no problem. But in terms of, they've dropped points here, and Bayern have put 2 wins together. It can either go 2 ways, really.
Yep. I'm a little concerned about Leverkusen's back line to start the year. What is that conceding? Was that
It's a lot of goals.
Was it 3 against?
Yeah, 3,
Against Gladbach?
5.
No,
Yeah, 5 goals in total.
6. If they,
No,
what was the score of the
total.
Gladbach game?
6 goals. 6 goals.
I could be.
It was a 4-3 and then a 3-2 or 2-3. So yeah,
you're at 5. Sorry, 5.
Oh, was it 5? Okay.
Yeah, 5 and 2. Don't love that for the Leverkusen back line. I mean, obviously they have some veterans and guys who did it last year, like Tapsova and Todd back there, and this is the Bundesliga. We can't forget there's just goals in the Bundesliga. There's nothing you can really do about it, but a little concerning, their back line, and the fact that they give up 3 in a row at home on your home opener too. That's gotta leave a sour taste in your mouth, and especially as we've mentioned with the break coming up, it's something to mull over for the next couple of weeks. We get to see Leverkusen's wing backs get involved. Frimpong and Grimaldo both on the score sheet. That's part of what's made them so lethal over the past year is attack from all areas, and it's not just Boniface, and it's not just Wirtz, and it's not just bangers from Shaka from the midfield. They got these fast ass dudes on the wing who just create problems. So, I mean, they're going to be an exciting team to watch all year, regardless of the result. Whether that leaves them at the top of the table or in second or third, I'm excited to watch Alonso's men go to work again. But a hell of a result for Leipzig, a team that looked horrible. Okay, horrible is a little strong. They didn't look great against Bochum. To pull out a win on the road at Leipzig, you got to give the team a huge confidence boost. So we'll see if they're able to continue that kind of play going forward.
Without a doubt. Kind of going to and right before I actually pivot this conversation to another league, after the Gladbach game, I mentioned that maybe this gave some tips to how to beat Xabi's defense and unlock that. And it seems like Rosa used similar tactics from Gladbach. So I feel like Xabi Alonso, the emphasis is not going to be scoring goals over the break because they got that, bags full, but it's going to be tightening up that defense. Don't love getting rid of Kosunu to Atalanta. I don't love that. I thought he played a pretty integral part of their defense last year. Nkapie has been, rumored off and on as leaving. So is Tapsoba. So, they lose one of these guys in January, then there could be some problems there. But, if you're a neutral and you don't really care about Bayer Leverkusen winning the Bundesliga, then, I still think they're the most entertaining team to watch in the world. Now, another team that has just looked spectacular to start the season, this is Barcelona. They scored for fun, putting 7 past Real Valladolid. Real Valladolid has kind of kept it close with Madrid. They kept it close with whoever they played before that. And then Barcelona just went out and demoralized them. Lamine Yamal, Rafinha's hit the ground running. Not a lot of people talking about Rafinha. He was hot and cold last season, but he's really stepped it up this season and has really found what Barcelona fans have been calling for him to do, finish and put the ball in the back of the net and play that final pass. He had a hat trick. So, that's really exciting times. And they continue just to churn out wins while their compatriots, Real Madrid, continue to, they win or they draw, but they're not looking like Barca right now. So, yes, Lewandowski is clicking like we mentioned, and Lamine Yamal looks like he's, the youngest, most promising player. I actually have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lamine more promising and could be better than Jude, Jamal, in Florian Wirtz? Because I say yes. I mean, this kid's 16, 17-year-old, started on the Euro winning side of Spain, kind of broke into the squad last year, but he could be the top assist leader in terms of La Liga this season. He already has a couple. I mean, could this guy be next up? I mean, he's a decade younger than Mbappe if we're talking like decade periods. Like Mbappe is probably the most dominant player as of right now. But I mean, I think Lamine Yamal could overshadow Mbappe's legacy and, be, I mean, I'm not going to say anything crazy here, but I think he could touch some of the all-time greats in terms of what he's shown on paper. And if he continues doing that, through the next 15 years.
There's no question. There's no question in my mind that he is right there already with those guys. The fact that he did it with Spain and played as big a role as he did on that kind of stage says a lot. And I think we'll have to see through this entire season how it turns out for Barcelona and in particular for him to, I think, get a full assessment on him. But what we've seen so far is that he's been completely dominant on the wing. At his age, it's so impressive. The skill that he has is so nasty. Sets up 2 goals this weekend and just continues to be one of the main threats going forward for Barcelona. I just love watching him play, just in general. Like, I don't know how you could be watching a Barcelona game and not love watching Lamine Yamal play. They got something really special cooking right now. So exciting going forward. I think the Bernal ACL injury hurts them
a
little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I was watching that game live when he went down, and who are they playing? They were playing Vallecano, I think.
Yeah.
And the Vallecano fans were all giving him shit because it happened in like the 92nd minute, but dude blew out his ACL. So like,
he's like 16.
Who gives him? Yeah, I mean, who's the scumbags now? But Lewandowski continues to do it, and Dani Olmo could turn out to be one of the transfers of the season.
He hit the post twice against Valladolid.
Yeah,
hit the post twice,
and he scored. So
and he scored the game winner. He scored the game winner against Vallecano.
Yeah.
So
Dani Olmo, with his bleached hair and all, looking like a serious problem with Barcelona at the cam. I just love their front three right now with the way Rafinha's going as well, like you mentioned. Already I think he has 3 goals and 2 assists to maybe it's 4 goals to start the season, which for a guy who has been in the past ridiculed a little bit for his finishing ability, that's huge for Barcelona. And Hansi's got the boys going. So, Madrid, with the kind of start they've had, they got their hands full, I think, a little bit with Barcelona this year and the kind of attacking presence that they have. They're just super fun to watch.
I couldn't agree more. Milan continues to draw games. I think it's really heating up for Paulo Fonseca. They did play a better team in Lazio, but they go down and they're able to come back late. So I'm not sure what's happening in Serie A. Roma had a good result against Juve, which is, I was thinking Daniel De Rossi needs to pick it up a little bit with Roma's side. That was a very well earned point for them. So I would say Serie A continues just to draw more question marks than answers for us.
Such a weird league.
Such a weird league this year. And I think it's Inzaghi's to lose. Challenged only by probably Thiago Motta's men. But we're at 40 minutes, so we'll go ahead and kind of move on to some other things we wanted to talk about, starting with the transfer window. And the biggest topic of conversation I had in terms of the transfer window is one of the oddest moves I've seen in a long time. And obviously we're not behind the scenes, so we don't really know what's going on. But, Victor Osimhen, worth 100 million plus, one Napoli Serie A player of the season, was kind of deciding if he wanted to go to Saudi or he wanted to go to Chelsea. He ended up going to neither. and somehow buys himself a loan who negotiated himself after he sacked his agent to Galatasaray for 4 months just to play some football. As Antonio Conte said, you will not be playing for me this year. As a Chelsea fan, I'm sure you were disappointed, but talk us through that. Like, how can you screw up your career so much within a couple weeks in terms of now you're not even playing for a great club, you're playing for Galatasaray in the Turkish league?
Yeah, it was honestly stunning. Like, I couldn't believe what was happening. Because all of deadline day, well, really the day before and then the morning of deadline day, it looked very likely that he was going to go to Saudi. And then they signed Ivan Toney, and they said that they were only going to sign one striker. So all of a sudden, you think it's just Osimhen and Chelsea, and they have basically all day to figure something out. I think a lot of it comes down to Osimhen's stubbornness a little bit, like so consistent with the fact that he didn't want a loan. He wanted a full deal, which they could have just signed him on loan with the clause to buy him. That part just a little above my pay grade, but that part drove me crazy. He wanted no less salary than he had at Napoli.
That's fair.
I understand that. And Chelsea, with their new wage structure they're working with, where they pay these certain players X amount, like their contracts they're signing to long-term contracts, but they're keeping the wages typically close to, or like, I would say, not like the craziest high wage bill of all time. It's just they keep it very consistent throughout their squad of how they pay these players. So I think if they were to sign Osimhen, his wages would be much, much higher than anybody in the squad.
Yeah.
And it was just remarkable how it all fell apart. Like the inability for either side to come to some sort of agreement was startling to me. And frankly, like, I saw that the relationship between Napoli and him like completely fell apart. Like they wanted absolutely nothing to do with each other that entire like process. And then he signs with Galatasaray once the window closes, and it's just like, I think it's just a clear example of somebody who favors the money a little more. And, if he wants that, then I guess that's the path he chooses to take. But the fact that he is in the prime of his career, arguably a top 5 striker in the world, and he takes his talents to the Turkish league is just
sickening.
It's unbelievable, dude.
It really is. And then you see some merry-go-rounds, Sterling to Arsenal, Sancho to Chelsea. That was two that just isn't going to sit right for a little bit for me, just off of just pure confusion.
Sterling's just trying to knock out the big 6, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's well on his way.
Would it have been like...
That's his 4th club. Wait, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, now Arsenal. Yeah, it's 4.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I know some people take it a little more seriously. Like, is it a serious problem if Chelsea did like send him to Manchester United? Like, is the rivalry that tense right now that if he went to Manchester United, people would all the City fans would all of a sudden hate Raheem Sterling? Like, I was seeing that places, and I was like, I just don't know if United fans are in a place right, or I guess United fans wouldn't be the one to like be pissed off. It would be more City fans, but like he brought them so many he was part of a lot of their trophy teams that it's like, I just don't feel like it's that big a deal at this point in his career. And you've seen what he's done the last 2 years, to say that Raheem Sterling going to Manchester United is so vile.
Yeah, no, I get that. A couple under the radar transfers. Eddie Nketiah to Palace on loan. I like that, as Mateta hasn't really, I would say he hasn't started the season fantastic. He's a very hot and cold player. Reece Nelson to Fulham. I think that could be a low-key
I
signing.
like that one.
I like that one a lot. Arsenal just basically cutting dead weight here.
Yeah.
Carlos Soler from PSG to West Ham, another shrewd signing for West Ham. You're basically replacing James Ward-Prowse, who went to Forest, which I actually really like that one. To have Soler, I think that's an upgrade for West Ham, and that's an upgrade for Forest, especially Forest, who have a lot of big guys, and they're going to win a lot of games off set pieces. You stick Ward-Prowse there, especially since they lost their starting center defensive mid Danilo for the season, basically breaking his leg. I like that. Armando Broja to Everton. I mean, maybe Armando can save Everton. We'll have to see.
I mean, he was getting no burn at Chelsea. Like he
was.
needed to move in the worst way, and Chelsea needed to move him in the worst way. So I'm glad that they finally found a spot, because it looked like for a little bit he was going to Ipswich.
Yeah, and then that crashed through. I was pretty upset about seeing one. I didn't notice when Simicon from RB Leipzig went to El Nasser. That made me a little upset, because I think he's one of the most promising center backs / right backs out there. I like him a lot at Leipzig, so him going to El Nasser kind of hurts my heart personally. And then Roma signed Mario Hermoso, and they signed Kone from Gladbach, two other really good signings for Roma. So, they've made the signings. We'll see if they can kind of pick up the play on the field. Was there any other signings that you saw on deadline day? Oh, Manuel Ugarte.
Yeah,
from PSG.
That was a big one. He was very persistent in going to Manchester United. Clearly, that was a spot that he wanted to end up. So, I mean, God, they need all the midfield help they can get. So hopefully he'll at least provide some sort of stability in there for them. We mentioned it over text, but Coop Miners to Juventus.
Love that. Love that. And Chico Coates-Sal as well.
Yeah, some really good moves, I think, from Juventus, who have started the season super brightly, as we all thought. So, yeah, those are just a couple. You mentioned a good amount of them. A lot of them I feel like weren't on the deadline day, so we already knew about them all. Like, I mean, I guess one that's paying off big time already is Amadou Onana to
Villa,
and all of a sudden he's a goal scorer. So he's been huge for them in the midfield to replace Douglas Luiz. But yeah, those are some of the main ones. I think what really dominated the deadline day was the Osimhen saga.
Yeah, I actually like. I saw one more Lacroix from Wolfsburg to Palace. We were kind of scratching our head after they were trying to sell Gahey and Anderson. Anderson ended up leaving. They got Lacroix from Wolfsburg, which I like, because they needed a center back pretty bad. You can't be that light on center backs if you're Palace. Things could go very wrong very fast there. So I kind of like what Palace did.
What are your thoughts on Tony going to Saudi?
I was watching a TikTok clip, and I actually saw that Tony's paid less than 9 of the squad members on Brentford.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to verify it saying that's true, but I would imagine this is a fairly larger podcast, so I would think that would be true.
Why do you think he started gambling?
And so, yeah, well, that too. If he was looking for money, I don't think any big six were willing to pay for him at this point. So if you want to go get your bag, a player like Tony, I don't mind going to the Saudi league over a very young, talented player that has a long career ahead of him. I think if Tony went to an Arsenal, he'd play for 2 more years maybe, and then he would have to find a new club. He kind of secured the bag early, and now he can get paid for a year or two and then go and maybe have 1 or 2 more good years in a top flight league. He also just hasn't really played that much in the last year and a half. So I think the gambling thing and the ban really killed his transfer value. He probably would be at a top 6 club without that. And I still think there's a great player in there. So we'll have to see. But he wasn't very highly paid at Brentford, so I'm glad he got his bag somewhere.
I want to say Mbeumo is the highest paid player there.
Mbeumo's, he's the star striker now. So
I mean, he's a stud, don't get me wrong, but
it adds up.
It is kind of crazy that how far down on the list he was for salary
for like
Brentford.
arguably the best player for Brentford for like 3 seasons in a row too, which is wild.
Did he never sign an extension or anything like that?
He was just thinking he was going to get a big move, I think, and it just never materialized because Brentford were asking like 60 million. I don't think
he got his big move.
He got his big move. Yeah, well, good for him. But last little segment here. Me and Harrison are going to do a snake draft of the top 5 coaches right now. 5 each, back and forth. Snake draft, you get 2 in a row. So I put you on the spot. I told you right before this. So we're going to go off the dome here and choose heads or tails, Harrison.
Tails.
Siri, flip a coin. It's tails. So you start us out.
Tails never fails, Dan. I'll take Pep Guardiola as my as the 1-1. Pep Guardiola. I don't think I can go wrong there.
I'm gonna take Don Carlo.
Okay, that's a valid. What actually? That might be the only one too.
And I'm gonna follow up with my second pick of this draft. Oh boy. Xabi Alonso.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the right. I was between him and this guy. I'm going to take Inzaghi from Inter.
That's good.
He
was on my list.
The kind of years he's had at Inter has been special. So he's risen the ranks a little bit. At the 3-1, who do I want? So the problem is, there's so many new managers right now in the Prem that nobody really stands out in the Prem right now.
You could do international as well, by the way.
You know what? I know this is his first year on the job, but I just love the way he plays. So I'm going to take Hansi Flick from Barcelona.
That was going to be my next pick. All right. I'm going to go with Luis Enrique, PSG. And I'm going to go with Ernesto Valverde, another ex-Barcelona coach. Won the Copa del Rey at Bilbao and was very dominant. So I think that leaves you with one more, and I have one more.
Are we taking 4 each?
Oh, 5 each. I have
5
4,
each?
sorry.
So
you have 2, and then I have 1. You have 3.
Currently, I have Pep, Inzaghi, and Flick.
Yep.
I'll finish it off, though, with 2 guys in the Prem right now. I'll take Mikel Arteta.
Okay.
And I'll take a guy who's used to be the Arsenal man. I'll take Unai Emery.
That's a good one. I didn't even think of Unai. I'm going to finish up with I'm going to finish with Thiago Motta. I'm a big believer in him. One little sample size, but from what I've seen, he's the guy. Yeah. So just to recap, I got Xabi Alonso, Luis Enrique, Valverde, Thiago Motta, and what was my last one? How did I forget that? Xabi Alonso.
You took Xabi? You took Enrique?
Enrique, Valverde, Thiago Motta. And did I not get a 5th? Okay.
No, you did. You can pick if you want to. Like, I don't really care that much. But
No. You name your top 5. Let me think about this for a second.
I have Pep. I have Flick. I have Inzaghi. I have Arteta. And I have Emery.
Okay.
What did you just pick?
I don't know. Did I not pick
No,
5? I had 4. Yeah. Oh, Don Carlo. What the hell?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That is horrible.
So I actually might throw a little poll up here on the Full-Time Roundup Twitter after this. You guys can vote on whose top 5's the best out of the 2 of us. But, we will wrap here. If you're listening, thank you. Probably the next pod will be a preview of of the week 3 or week 4 in the Premier League, excuse me, after international break. We might throw in an episode if we're feeling spicy between that now and then. Just depends on our schedules. But thank you again for tuning in, and hope everyone enjoys the international break as much as we do.